Welcome to One Insight. My name is Rich Litvin. I grew up in London and I now live in LA. And this is a podcast for extraordinary top performers. You see, I've coached some of the most successful and talented people on the planet. I see what most people cannot see, and I dare to say what most people wouldn't dare to say. And what I know about success is that on the other side of it, it can actually be lonely. You can feel like more of an imposter the more successful you become. And when you're the most interesting person in the room, you're actually in the wrong room. I coach around insight. Life looks one way, something happens, the world looks different, and your entire world changes. It can happen in an instant. And this podcast is called One Insight because a single insight can change everything. Today's episode isn't a coaching session. It's a very honest conversation with one of my protégés. Before becoming a coach, Marc Silverman generated over $90 million in complex tech sales in the corporate world, and he worked at numerous rapid growth startups. He sought me out as his coach, and he became a member of my community. It could be challenging when you leave the corporate world to become a coach. It's one of the first times in your life often that you see your bank account going down and down and down. And Marc went through that experience. Now, he's making over $200,000 a year as a coach. He's working with dream clients. His first book sold over 50,000 copies, and he's working on his second right now. It wasn't always like this because at the early days of him working with me, he was creating a six-figure income as a coach, and yet that didn't cover the expenses of his former lifestyle. And he went through a challenging time for a while. When you listen right to the end, you'll hear Marc share about the frightening moment when he realized he was spending more money from cashing in his 401k than he was making from his coaching income. Marc asked me if he could share this very raw and real up and down story with you. And I immediately said yes. Enjoy. People accomplish impossible things on a regular basis. And then they forget about that. They don't see that. And then they put something else in front as a goal. And as humans, we're really good at putting big goals out there. We are really poor at estimating time frames. So we usually give ourselves quite tight time frames to accomplish whatever it is we've got. And then we don't hit our own time frame and we judge ourselves and feel bad. And that's the context for this conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And the reason that I wanted to have this conversation is because the rule I have for sharing in your community, the rule I have for sharing anyway, is if it's of value, I will share it. I don't want to share for my own vanity just to be on a stage, but especially when it comes to your community, there's so many people who are speaking to coaches about coaching and about coaching businesses. Unless I have something valuable that I think will serve people, I don't want to do it. And I have something now that I feel is really valuable, especially to the people who are attracted to you and your community, that I really would love to share. And it's shameful and it's embarrassing, but it's useful. So I don't care.
Beautiful. Thank you. It's great context for me. I always appreciate that. So I'm going to take you back in time. We first met. We had these conversations about working together. I kept pushing you away because you really wanted coaching. And when I feel that, we laugh about it now, but I remember the fun in the moment of that. I really got that these words come back to me right now in that first conversation, that you're a force of nature. And then at some point we agreed, let's work together. You've basically worked with me on everything I've ever done. You've been an apprentice, you've been a member of 4PC from the beginning, you've done salons with me, you've done leadership trainings with me, you've done everything that we've done. We've done a lot of work together over the time we've known each other. Give me your context of this story. That's the background for me.
So this story is, I went on a retreat with the author Alan Cohen, and he told me that I should be a coach. And I'm like, I'm a sales guy. I don't even know what a coach is. When I decided to actually go into his coaching school, my ex-wife said, this is what you should have been your whole life. This is what we've been talking about. We didn't have a name for it. And she depends on me financially, right? She doesn't work. We have kids. And she says, you should do this. So I went into coaching, and then I met you. So on one hand, I'm a high-tech sales guy. I know how to sell. I know how to talk to people. I know how to close. So the first ingredient to being a good coach, I have, to build a coaching business, I have that. Second, I hire Rich Litvin. I join his community, right? And the reason I said I hired Rich Litvin is because if I'm going to be coached, I want to be coached by the best. I have the money, so I'm going to be coached by the best. So I just jump right into your community and jump in working with you. So I become your apprentice for several years. I become part of the Prosperous Coach community. I become part of 4PC. So I'm surrounded by the best of the best, and I'm surrounded by people who know how to build coaching businesses. And I'm learning my skills. I'm actually a really good coach, right? Now I believe I'm a really good coach, but I was always a really good coach. I never had problems with people coming in here and not walking out with value. But for some reason, the financial success, the click, just didn't happen. And I'd write a book and it sells 50,000 copies. But I push that aside. I don't even talk about the book because I made it, so I don't really believe in it. You should go be the only tens guy, right? And I didn't want to do that. Nothing clicked. And I hovered around, I have had a 6-figure coaching business for quite a few years, but my expenses were over $200,000 a year, 2 houses, 2 family, like all that stuff. So I never felt like a success. I never brought this business to the level that I wanted to be at. And I beat myself up quite a bit because if I have all this support, if I have any talent or skill, why are other people making more money than me? And I stand on stage, and I've never lied about how much money I make. I've never lied about how hard this has been for me to build a business. And, there was a point in our relationship where I had to change our relationship because you always said, be you, right? Be you. And those are just words until they're not. Because when the first time I joined AA, they gave you a coin that said, to thy known self be true. And I remember getting that coin my first day in AA going, what the hell does that mean? Like, what's the self? I had no, like that didn't even fathom. So when you say be you, I was being my version of Rich Litvin, or I was being my version of any number of people that I admired, right? I'll be a little Steve Chandler. I'll be a little Alan Cohen. I'll be, I want to be Jay Shetty now because I'm on video, right? And it wasn't until I realized, you and I were working together, and I was working with you to help build 4PC, that as much as I loved the coaching community wasn't where my coaching skills were and where I belonged. So I was a big fish in a pond I didn't even swim in, right? So I love supporting and what's the word I'm looking for? Promoting your work. I believe in your work wholeheartedly, 100%. I'm really not a fan of most of the coaches who coach coaches businesses around here. And I find what you do to be real and successful. I watch people be successful over and over again. And I was successful, just not as successful as I wanted to be. But the moment what I realized was I didn't want to be around the coaching industry so much. I liked being in glass buildings. I liked being with business people. I liked being, I put my Hugo Boss suit on and my gold watch for the first time on your stage one day, and people said, "You look so different. Who are you?" Right? Like my energy changed. It was like, so I now integrated who I was with who I am. And realizing, and it was Helen Appleby who said, Mark, you belong in glass buildings. And I'm like, she's right. I love glass buildings. So the day you and I, because I was actually working in your organization, the day we stopped that was the day I signed 2 clients in glass buildings, the exact same day. And I started working in that direction, and my practice started to shift. But it wasn't until a moment on stage with Casey Baker. So, you bring people to 4PC for to help us grow our businesses. So the talents and skills you may not have, you augment that and you bring those people in, right? And you work with them also. So Casey, I went to work on a keynote speech with Casey Baker, and I did one keynote speech, which was completely on script about mastering midlife. I had the concept, it kind of felt, but then the second one I did, I went completely off script and I spoke from my heart. And what's really cool is it's on video. The moment I clicked in is on video. But that whole BU thing is elusive until it's not. So on stage, I said, I feel like I'm breaking a confidence. And I was so raw, and I thought I'm just ruining this talk. I'm just like moding here on stage. I said, and the confidence I think I'm breaking is one that we all keep, is that this status symbol life, the Facebook life, the LinkedIn life, I live in the richest town in the richest country in America, right, is a facade, and we're all dying. And people are getting cancer, and suicide is on the rise. And I started talking about this. And when I got off stage, I thought, oh my God, I just ruined everything. And the cameraman walks over to me and he hugs me and he tells me I just told his story. And what I realize is who I am, the BU part, is I have something inside me that I want to say that isn't popular, isn't tried and true, doesn't sound like anybody. It's not derivative of anybody. It's created from this that wants to come out. And the moment that happened, I know if I was interviewed on a podcast, I never have to think about how I'm interviewed. I never have to prepare myself. I went for a TED Talk audition and I was sick the whole week before and I didn't prepare. And I wanted to see if I could walk on stage in an audience full of people ready for a TED Talk and see if I could make people cry. And I did, right? And the organizer said, you're obviously a professional speaker and that was amazing, but that wasn't a TED Talk. I'm like, that wasn't the whole point of me being on this stage. So the thing that I learned is I don't have to be prepared ever now. I speak, write, my website looks like me. All my marketing just comes out of me. This podcast, the Mastering Midlife podcast, is effortless because I clicked in to what the thing that I didn't want to say for years until it came out. And the piece that's embarrassing is it doesn't come out till it comes out, right? It took 5 years for me to figure out who I was as a coach. Now my practice is filled, right? Now I've passed the $200,000 run rate mark, right? Like now, and I don't have to work at all. When I talk to my clients, I sit there and the recognition is just coming over their faces. Like I'm their guy because everything I say resonates with them because I figured out like who I am as a coach. Someone else who's not my client will not resonate with me. It would be too much work. So that's what I want to share with the community is, if you're going to be in this for the long haul and really find your own voice. You can get...
It's interesting, Mark, because there's a paradox in there, right? Because sometimes we need to model others to learn. And in that process, we lose a bit of ourselves. And then there comes a moment when we have to break out of that in order to come back to who we always were originally.
So that's actually brilliant because, right, I had to model you guys and I had to be a little Rich Litfin for a little while because there's skills and things that are so good that I wanted to learn. I am now so still and silent in a coaching situation where people comment on it like people comment on you. And part of that was me learning to be like you. And now it's also doing my own work so that I am still and silent when people are talking. So yeah, you're absolutely right. But to keep at it is my message to people. Yeah.
It's why I started this context of we're good at putting big goals out there, but we're really poor at estimating how much time it will take. And so there's that line that people are very poor at estimating what they'll accomplish in 10 years, and they regularly overestimate what they'll accomplish in 1 year. Mm. So I on a regular basis now, I set myself a 25-year goal, and I teach this to others. What my 4PC is my 25-year mission. And it makes something very different happens when you show up and you're committed to the length of time that would take to create that. And that's what I hear with you. Like you realized, oh yeah, this is the time frame I just set was too short. Put it out to here, and amazing things can happen.
Yeah, the one thing I wish I could teach people is how to find that quiet little thing that's right there that we just keep walking over, right? And often you find it when I watch you talk to people in 4PC, or like you'll pull that thread, but it takes a while for people to acknowledge that that's the thread they want to pull, because it's threatening, right? It's the scary.
I do it actually faster and faster these days than ever before. And it's funny seeing your 2 books behind you, because one of the simplest questions I ask people these days is, what's the book you want to write? Or tell me about the book you're writing. Not because I'm a book coach, not because you ever need to get a book out into the world, but everyone's got a book inside of them. It's their story, it's their mission. And it comes quite quickly, like, oh, this is the book. I know that this is what I'd write. But that's the easy book. I don't really care about that. What I care about, I don't tell them up front, is the next question. What's the book that would scare you to write? What's the book you'd be terrified to say? Or what's the book you'd write if I was already successful and I was known and I didn't have to worry? This one. And that's when the magic comes out. Exactly. I see it behind you. It's there in real time. So it's a really powerful tool that I use, and I see it there, that we worked through that over time and it got there. So I love this. Look, Mark, we get more and more executives coming to us these days because we've got this track record of helping people who had a background in the corporate world become coaches and then fly. And here's the crazy thing. What I've realized is there's a reason they fly, because until about 20 years ago, we didn't even call it coaching. We called it leadership. And if you're a great leader, you're a natural coach. You know how to nurture your team. You know how to challenge your team. You know when to be silent with them. You know when to really be intense with them. It's coaching. It's been there. It's innate. It's a natural skill for great leaders. So we get these executives coming in and they want to transition, usually because they're burnt out in that old career, in that old field, or they've hit enough of a glass ceiling. They don't want to go anymore. And it's a great field to walk into. And I love hearing your story because it's part of that journey. You really can fly as a coach, a consultant, if you've got a background in the corporate world. And the way you put it, I love being in glass buildings.
Yeah, always. It's funny. I wrote down this morning in thinking about this call. Casey has an exercise that she brings you through to figure out what your signature talk is, and you do this like many times, and it's most people think ... but the truth is ... right? Most people think ... but the truth is ... And then what I did was I morphed it a little bit. So after playing with it for a while, it's most people think ... My experience has been ... And that's the scarier part, is what I see, what I believe, what I know. It doesn't have to be right. It's just my experience. And the people who resonate with that will become my clients and be here. So for me, it started out with most people think that the hustle and grind of Gary Vaynerchuk and Grant Cardone and burning the candles in both ends is the way to success. The truth is, for me, it's the way to burnout and death. And that this sustainable success is done in a different way. So that's, so for me to find that and to go against culture, like I go against the culture. Every time I'm interviewed, I'm like, I'm sorry, yes, I'm a productivity guy, but I just don't believe in burning the candles at both ends.
Nice. These are what I call the counterintuitive truths. And so they speak to the heart of the BU and it's been in you your whole life. Sometimes we just need to draw it out. Mark, I love this. I remember in the early days of this, when you felt like you were struggling, it's interesting here, you reflect back now, like you were making $100,000 a year. It just didn't cover what you needed to do to have the lifestyle that you needed. Not the luxury lifestyle, just some of the basics you needed to cover with kids in school and a family and everything. It's intense. And then now looking back, oh yeah, you have a life that you can create and a business you can create, not with a sense of ease, but from a sense of ease. That brings in 200K and more. Thanks for sharing the story, Mark.
I appreciate it. I was hoping that this would be raw enough and real enough to help people because this journey, I just meet so many coaches who are beating themselves up and miserable.
So talking of being raw, then, like, give me a snapshot of a moment in the middle when you felt really raw, because I don't think we got there yet. I'll
tell you, when cashing checks from my 401k, feels raw, right? Getting my tax bill and seeing more of my tax bill is from taking money from my 401k than from my income.
Yeah.
That's frightening. When my son's car blew up and he wanted a new car, and I couldn't buy him a new car, where I used to be able to do those kinds of things. My ex-wife got him a new car, right? So that was, those kinds of things are really tough. In my relationship, when we got together, I was a millionaire sales guy, walking around in a Hugo Boss suit, driving a sports car. And he's like, now you're a coach. I don't even know what that means, but I'm retiring. How are you going to take over, the finances, right? Those are the raw, tough things. And then every psychic who tells me, oh, Mark, you're just a money machine. You're a money maker. But then I watch myself sabotage myself. I watch myself not create the things that I want to create. And all of a sudden and it shifted. Now that it's a wellspring, I am in a creative renaissance. I have never felt a sense of absolute creation like Steve Chandler's new book, The Creator. I live this every day. I just can't stop creating and making things in the world. So finally digging and finding my own well has been an exquisite journey. This is what I hope for everybody.
It feels good hearing you say this. One of the things I hear as the biggest pain for executives who leave that world is they've had salaries $200,000 plus. And for the first time in their life, they see their bank account going down on a regular basis instead of up. Even though quite quickly they can earn more than most coaches, it's still an income that's not where it used to be. And that along this journey is really intense. So what you've just done is help people expand their time frame, which brings a sense of ease into this. For most of human history, it wasn't called coaching, it was called leadership. And it's what I love to do, to coach people, to lead people, and to mess with people's thinking. If you'd like more of this, or if you'd like to learn more about our community of extraordinary top performers, go to richlitvin.com/oneinsight.